Joe and Hampton, lights dim, it's game time. Interview sharp, cut through like a shank line.
I like this.
All right, Stick Lounge. We're on Facebook, Stick Lounge. We're on Instagram at Stick_Lounge. YouTube at Stick_Lounge_podcast. TikTok at Stick.Lounge.podcast. Email sticklounge@dat, creolesoul.com. You guys want to use the Stick Lounge podcast studio? Hit us up. We got everything set up. We'll set you up, create some content. You want to use the Stick Lounge itself? Hell yeah, you do. We got a full PA system set up for 4 mics. We've got 70-inch TV. We've got darts. We've got cards. We've got chess. We've got, I think we got Uno. We got everything, guys.
We do.
Hit us up. You want to do private party
Ham's
karaoke?
still gotta teach me how to play
You want
bones,
to watch a movie
though.
with your friends?
I've never played
You
it
want to have a
before.
birthday party? That's what it's here
It's
for.
good.
Des Moines, Washington, right off Marine View Drive, right above Creole Soul. Thanks for listening. All right, Stick Lounge podcast. What's going on, everybody? What's up, Ham? How you doing, man?
Nothing much, man. Trying to survive.
Trying to survive. You had a rough night last night, bro.
Rough night trying to stay out of the ER, you know what I mean? And going there making blank trips. But,
Yeah.
I have my partner with me, Catwoman. She took good care of me. So,
Yeah, she picking on you a little bit, though.
yeah, sure she was. If she didn't pick on me, it wouldn't be good. So. But you know what? I'm here. I'm glad to be here. And I'm healing slowly.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to rush it. So I just need to pull back a little bit. So
Yeah, you know what I'm noticing right now?
what?
These new chairs. You doing this?
Yeah, I'm digging in the chair.
if you guys have watched us before, we got new chairs, bro.
Yeah. Joe went shopping.
I did go shopping. I did. We got a nice studio going on, man. I like it.
It's set up nice and tight, man.
It's not getting cold like that. You can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, you can't start talking about it. You want low rent and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
he does. He's trying to get subscribers so he can get a discount.
So other than that, though, it's another Sunday, another podcast,
Yeah.
Trying to choke them out and get them in rolling and get another guest sitting in here. And
Yeah.
so on that note, I'm not even talking about Creole Soul right now because I think Friday we got the Duo Brothers. But
You do got a band this week?
Yeah.
Oh,
Then
okay.
Saturday we got the Sneaker Ball.
Yeah, Saturday we got Sneaker Ball.
So I'll be
let's,
closed.
Stick Lounge podcast will be live at the Sneaker Ball on Saturday.
So
Hopefully. We'll be there.
we'll be there.
It's going to be our first
live.
live attempt. Well, we've done some Facebook lives, but this will be our first full live event. So
So on that
say a little
note,
prayer for us.
on that note, I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce our next guest that's sitting right in front of you
cool,
there.
cool.
So
This is a good friend of mine, Dekel. How's it going, bro?
Pretty good.
Good to have you in.
welcome aboard. Glad to have you.
So we've known each other for 20 years now?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long
something
time.
like
Met you through my wife, Becca.
Yeah.
You guys go back way back.
that. Way back, like car seats. Like that's just like
It's like full flat for the Cadillac.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean the stories that these two had, man, just wild. Wow, you were telling us a few out there just a little bit ago. Just funny stuff, always funny stuff. But so I want to bring you in. You are now I'm probably gonna screw this up. Therapist?
Yes, licensed mental health.
Licensed mental health therapist. All right. So what got you started on that track? How did you make the decision to be like, I want to be in people's heads all day?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a sticky place to be, bro.
Yeah, rough place to be.
So I mean, I started off teaching back in Phoenix.
Okay.
And so I started teaching. It was like kindergarten first. Wasn't really good for me. I wasn't a good fit. Moved to middle school. Didn't like middle schoolers because they're just,
Middle schoolers.
right. Went to high school. Liked high school.
Okay.
It was really fun. So I was there for a little while. And what I was noticing is that working in Phoenix, it was kind of a poor area, like Thomas, like 19th Avenue.
Right.
And a lot of my students would come in and they just had problems upon problems, right?
Right.
A lot of them were alcohol, drugs, they were in gangs. I'm like, hey, did you do your homework? No, man. I was like, okay. How come you did your homework?
Nope.
They're like, well, I don't have electricity or I don't have running water or there's no food.
Thought it
And
was bad
so-
when I didn't have a computer when I was a kid.
I know, right? Little like Atari or Nintendo or anything. But a lot of my students, they could not focus.
Sure.
And so I talked to my principal. I'm like, hey, what can we do? Can we get a social worker in here or a counselor or someone? And it was a charter school, so they didn't have a lot of funds.
Okay.
And so I just realized that although I loved teaching, there was another part that I was like, you know what? That'd be really interesting to help these kids.
You thought it was
that
more
don't
important, really?
Yeah. And then also just being an educator, I loved it, but there were so many roadblocks.
Yeah.
There was a point in time where I had they would give out like papers and copy paper and pencils and everything, and they started cutting our budget. So I was trading with the other teachers, like, hey, I got like 10 pens. You got some pencils I can borrow?
Like in the yard.
It was really bad.
I'll give you this pack of smokes if you got an orange juice, bro.
Literally, we were bartering and trading.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? So, and then I left, and then I got a job at a place called Value Options. I don't think it exists anymore. But it was a community mental health agency, and it's working with adults with like schizophrenia, all that kind of psychosis.
That's
that kind
crazy,
of
man.
And I loved it. Like, it was just.
Why did you love it?
Oh, wow.
Is it like every day is an adventure or what?
Every day is different.
Yeah.
But sitting down, even if someone has schizophrenia, right? And let's say they are delusional or they have hallucinations, they still have a story.
Right.
Like they still were born somewhere. They still had dreams.
Yeah, that's
they still did stuff.
Sure.
And there are times where, and again, sometimes schizophrenia, you're like, is that a delusional thinking, or did they actually do that?
Yeah.
So, but even with that, they have great stories.
It's funny you say that because I was listening to something today, a podcast probably while I was working on this place, and I forget what it was. I'd give them a shout out if I can remember, but they said it was the same thing. The guy said everybody has a story.
Yeah.
He's like, even with the people that you don't want to see on a daily basis, the homeless people that give you a hard time, and he's like, they got there somehow.
Yeah.
Like they have a story. And it's funny. You just almost said the exact same thing that I heard today. It's just weird, but go ahead.
Yeah. And I just, that stuck with me. And then that's when I kind of went back to school to finish up my master's. Because I actually have 2 masters, one in educational psychology and then in counseling psychology.
Yeah, I know you've been going to school for a long
time. Yeah, I just time. I should have just like went the med.
Time for it to pay off.
I know, right? Yeah. But mental health has always just kind of like been my passion.
Okay.
And working with just various populations, I've worked with kids, older adults, younger adults, adolescents. So I work with them all. So
all right. So then I know you did that in the school system. I know you were a coach for a long time too.
Yeah.
So when did you leave the school system and like 100%? You said you started with what was the place called, the first place?
My full therapy group where I got, So let's see, after I finished my internship and everything, because I had my own business, I was doing contract work with DSHS.
Okay.
So from like 2011, it was called a community choice guide. So basically what I would do is I would get referrals from social workers for adults that were in nursing facilities and they're looking to discharge either into their own home or residential facilities if they cannot, provide care for themselves.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about
so kind of helping do
that.
Yeah. And then I pivoted, and then my contract now is behavioral health. So I work with older adults with dementia, other behavioral disturbances, either at home or in residential facilities.
Yeah, I know you told me about some pretty rough situations for people, like the transition stuff too, trying to get them out of the, out of the medical facility and into a home and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah. I mean, housing is terrible because if you're like, let's say 65 and your Social Security get $1,100 a month, if you don't have access to any housing vouchers, which is most of the wait lists are closed, where do you go?
Yeah.
And if they don't have family, a lot of times it is adult family homes.
Right.
And
I know there's a couple times you told me you were working with some elderly people and you knew right off the bat, like, I'm not going to get them anywhere.
Yeah, because it's just like, and a lot of them wanted to live independently, and they're like, I don't want to do an adult family home. I'm not ready for that. And I'm like, I understand
no other
that,
option,
but we don't have a lot of options.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's really tough for them. One of the biggest sticking point for them is that when you move, if you're Medicaid, if you're low income, if you move to a residential facility, you basically pay 95% of your income to the facility, and you keep like $60 to $70 a month.
That's crazy.
And they're like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But everything is kind of provided for you, the meals, there's staff there.
Sure.
So it's a big trade-off, but a lot of.
But when you don't want to be there anyways.
Exactly.
you're paying for something that you really don't want to do.
You don't want, and a lot of them end up saying, you know what, I'll just be homeless.
Yeah.
I'll just take my. And I'm like, oh,
So do you think there's a pretty high percentage of the current homeless population that attributes to, or?
I mean, for seniors,
I don't see
possibly
that many senior homeless.
There are some. There are some.
Right.
But most are younger.
Yeah.
But again, there aren't enough vouchers. Housing vouchers like through Section 8.
So what do you do when you run out of homes, or residents for people to stay at? I mean, and how do you go about acquiring these homes?
So, like an adult family home?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually there is, when I first started doing community choice guide work, I was talking to this provider. His name is Vladimir Stepania.
Okay.
Talking on the phone, and he's like, he had a kind of a thick accent. I'm like, oh, is he from Russia? So he was like, oh, I'm from Georgia. And at first I was like, you don't have Georgia. I have family from Georgia.
I'm from Georgia.
Yeah, I'm like that.
No, you're not,
Georgia. The other Georgia. Okay.
Gotcha.
Another Georgia.
Right. And so I had a client that was looking for their family home, and he had one in Renton and one in Seattle.
Okay.
So my client was at the hospital. So he's like, oh, usually the providers will meet me there, introduce, and go from there. So I'm like, okay, yep, I'll meet you there. So walk in, waiting for him. So I was like, oh, I wonder what he looks like. I've only talked with him on the phone. So I call him, and the phone rings, and I look over, and there's this guy who's like 9 feet tall. I mean, literally. And I'm
Taller
like,
than him?
I'm like just about almost like, okay. So I was like, hi, Vladimir. He's like, oh, Dekel. I was like, and we were talking, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to stereotype. I said, but did you play basketball? You know, 'cause I'm just like, and he's like, as a matter of fact, he did. He played for the Portland Trailblazers.
Okay.
And then for the Seattle Supersonics when they were here.
back there. Okay. Wow.
And so after he left, he was taking care of his mom, and until she passed, and that kind of created a new passion for him.
Yeah.
And then he
Kind
created
of
an
saw
adult
how
family
difficult
home.
it was.
Exactly.
And how there was nothing to do. And
Yep.
wow.
Yeah, and he created and had 2 adult family homes. So yeah.
Because that's what I was going to do at one time. I tried to figure out how to get into, for the homeless, buy at least 2 adult homes so they can have a place to stay and, let the state pay for it wherever.
Yeah.
However it was going about. But I kind of backed out of it when I just started doing the food truck. And,
It's a food truck, okay.
Yeah, so-
and there's different types. Like adult family homes, they are licensed also for specific care. So like dementia, kind of like other kind of behavioral health, developmental disabilities kind of thing.
Right.
There are also ones called group homes, and
Yeah.
group homes too can be for kids or for adults.
Oh, really?
I've never really worked with group homes before, so I don't know
Seems like
what
it'd be
the
kinda
difference is.
Dangerous. I mean, between mental illnesses and then that age range, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, obviously, but I feel like there could be a mix for some bad things going on there.
Most providers, especially with adult family homes, they will just stick with a certain demographic. They might say, hey, I only want to take individuals that are bedbound with dementia.
Okay.
Right. And, so they have the adequate staff. A lot of them are also like, I'll rather take young adults, but male only or just female only, that kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But yeah. So usually the only times there's a mix is if they're like 65, 75, 85, 90.
Right.
They're older, they're bedbound, wheelchair bound. Usually it's a kind of a mix. But most of them also will just stick with like all female or all male.
Right.
So would you say there's a pretty big need for these types of homes out here right now?
100%. And one of the reasons too that it's been frustrating is that so Medicaid pays the providers to take care of the clients.
Right.
And so
Provider being the one that owns the home.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they hire staff like caregivers, right?
Right, yeah.
And in King County, it's $20-25 an hour, possibly,
Okay.
And so what the state pays the providers to provide care,
It's not enough.
it's not enough. It's based on your ambulation. It's based on your toileting, right? It's based on your care needs.
Okay.
So if you have someone that's ambulatory and that can go to the bathroom by themselves, but
You get X amount of dollars.
exactly.
That's
and so there's
crazy.
just a rate. So a social worker will type it in the care assessment, and an algorithm will spit out a rate.
That's so wild.
And 9 times out of 10, providers are like, well, this person yells and screams and is physically combative, and you want to pay me $80 a day? Like,
to take
no.
care. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and there are different programs that will bump up the rate based on certain behaviors, but it's still not high enough.
So then the nice facilities, and I'm speaking from an area of like my grandmother was in a home before she passed away in Nevada, but it was a nice home. Those are probably privately owned, correct?
Well, so all of them are privately owned, but the
Privately
providers
funded, I guess.
Right. So the providers can choose if they want to take private pay or Medicaid.
So I guess my question is like, how do you have a nicer facility? One is nicer than another.
Yeah, and so usually like Bellevue,
Right.
Mercer Island, that
Sure.
kind of area.
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Even
And-
regional, right?
Exactly. And so, but again, too, there are providers that have one in Seattle or Linwood, and they're really nice. They really take care of it, and they may take all Medicaid.
Medicaid is guaranteed, though.
It is
it's a
guaranteed. It's
yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
But you have stipulations
Right.
and the audits and everything.
Right.
Most providers over the years, because Medicaid's reimbursement rate has not increased, they will still take Medicaid clients, but now they're saying we're only going to have 2 Medicaid beds. and the other 4 will be private pay,
Right.
just to kind of offset their costs.
Okay.
You know, and
so you can privately pay to get a family member into this space.
Yeah.
It costs you a little more.
Yeah, usually, I mean, it could be range 4, 5, 6, 7 grand, depending on where, you know.
4, 5, 6, 7 grand
A month.
A month, yeah.
Yes, a month.
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
yeah.
You know, these are the kind of talks that make me worry, bro. Because like, who's gonna take care of me, man? There's one thing we can't cheat, man, and that's time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you ever have that moment when you just like are looking at these people, going, "Oh my god"?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
all
when's
the
my
time.
birthday?
Yeah, all the time, and that's why when I work with a
2005.
lot of these clients, I try to like treat them
Bullshit.
just with respect and empathy because I'm like, if I get to be that age,
Yeah,
I'm hoping that the staff will treat me nice.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
but I can also tell like how I am now. I'm like, if I'm 80, I'm probably not going to care about some things. I might say some stuff, you know,
yeah.
you know, and then they're gonna have to call up our son and like, oh, well, your dad did this, you know.
I tell the girls, man, just leave me out in the woods.
You
Just
know,
let him go.
Right? You know, I told
If my
oldest-
mind goes, just let me go.
Right, exactly. Put me in a canoe, just
Yeah,
push me in
just
the Puget
put
Sound, let
Viking.
me just like whale food, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm going down.
But it is frustrating because too, as you get older, right? It's like what is worse, where you keep your mind, but then your body is not doing well,
Right.
And then you're kind of trapped,
Sure.
you know, or vice versa,
Yeah.
you know. And so again, like a lot of the clients I work with, I had this one lady. We discharged her from a nursing facility in Mercer Island, got her into a family home.
They have nursing facilities on Mercer?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's there's a few of them. Some are like more private pay, but there's a few that are Medicaid. And she was sweet. She was just such a nice lady. And so, you know, did the ride over, the transition over, everything was good. You know, her family was there. I'm like, okay, I'll check in with you later this week. So 2 days later, the provider calls me. It's like, she's not sleeping. She's up at night. She's just rummaging. She's walking around. She's waking up the other residents.
Right.
And like, we don't know if this can work out. I'm like, it took so long to place her.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
I was like, okay,
lot of
what
paperwork.
can we do? What can we do? So I would visit her.
like,
and
"Screwing
just
this up, lady. I got
I'm
you
just
in
like,
here."
what are you doing, please? And I was just talking to her, and I asked her. I said, so hey, I'm like, I know you have some kids, adult kids. I said, but did you work? What did you do? And she was like, I was an architect. I was like, really? She was like, I was one of the first female architects in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
She was just like, I was, you know, back then she was like, they would tell me to get coffee, you know, get water,
Okay.
you know,
Sure,
but she was
sure.
like,
Yeah.
I had the intelligence and the capability of everyone in my office. And so she's like, I had to fight. And I'm like, oh, so she would just tell me about some of the things and I can
So
tell
she's
she's
just
clear.
strong. She just,
She was there. And I was like, okay. So I asked her, I said, do you want to work? Do you miss working? She's
Right.
like, I miss working. She's
Yeah.
like, I would like to work. But she's like, I don't think I can work. And then she would kind of dip down, like, why am I here? Who, you know, where are my kids? And I'm like, okay.
So like a little bit of dementia? Or?
Yeah, dementia,
Okay,
yeah. So talk with her daughter, and we put a plan together where I went to Goodwill. I bought her like this little desk, and then we went and got some like drafting paper.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
And then the daughter went to like Goodwill or whatever and got just some old dresses. And again, it's like I felt bad, quote unquote, lying to her. But I was
Sure.
like, hey, I have a friend that's just starting an architecture firm.
Yeah.
And they just want some old school ideas from like the 60s and the 50s. And
Sure.
would you mind like just like
No, that's
work?
cool though, man. I
She
think that's
was
really
like,
cool.
yes. And she would go to bed. She set her alarm clock. She would get up
She
and
had
just start
purpose.
drafting. She had a purpose.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing for a lot of people with dementia or just other things. They lack a purpose,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's huge, man. I talk about it all the time. Like I've talked to people that retire, right? You know, and it's like, yeah, I mean, some people enjoy it, especially if you've got enough money and your spouse and you are still together and you're going to travel the world and do all the things that you always wanted to do together.
Right.
Most of the time, that's not the case.
No,
Most
no.
of the time, it's trying to get by, you know, on your Social Security and whatever you were able to save for retirement, and then trying to stay busy, you know. And a lot of those people, they go and get these little jobs. You know, the greeter at Walmart,
Yeah, greeter Walmart. Yeah.
probably retired,
Yeah.
you know, with a pension from somewhere, but he's bored. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I see that as being me. I see myself just whatever it is. Like I gotta have purpose. I gotta keep moving. You know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. You just got to keep doing something, you know, because other than that, you're going to check out.
Yeah.
You're going to check out.
Yeah.
And again, too, it's like if with certain age, body breakdown. You can't do the things that you used to love to do.
Which is
So
frustrating.
now it's like, what do I do now?
Right.
And that's a question of like, who am I?
We were just talking
You
about
know.
that at our ages. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
no, yeah, definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
Right
but
here.
but it's really tough. So yeah, so for a lot of in the older adults, and again, you don't have to be in your 80s to have dementia. There are people that in their 50s, early onset dementia.
So let me ask you this about dementia, and I know it's a very sad thing, right? I've been fortunate in my family. I don't recall, maybe my grandma June, I think right before she passed, she kind of had dementia, but I don't know if that was dementia or just she was so ill, because there's a difference,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
My grandma Judy, before she passed, she was still fine. Anyways, all that saying, I know people that have had grandparents and parents that have dementia,
Yeah.
and it's very sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, they don't know. Like, do you think there's almost an advantage there to mentally go before physically
Oh
go?
wow, that is so tough.
Because I know they have moments of what do they call
clarity.
it? Clarity.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So my maternal grandmother had dementia,
Okay.
vascular dementia. And so I helped her move from Phoenix to Florida to be with her oldest daughter.
Mhm.
And so I remember we went out there, it's 2016, to visit her, and she just like at a nursing facility,
Mhm.
and she was sitting there with like a little baby doll, just kind of playing with the hair. And I'm like, hey, grandma. And she looked at me, and I'm like, does she? And I think
Right.
her eyes kind of lit up.
Right.
So maybe, but I would just talk with her. I was like, oh,
Sure.
that's what we're doing. And I'm not saying I don't know, but a lot of people don't know. Sometimes they will kind of brighten up,
Mhm.
but you just talk with them,
Right.
and, but I mean, she lasted for a while. She passed away in 2020.
Mm.
But it was hard. It was hard seeing her, because even just talk to my aunt, and doing like a video call,
Sure.
she was just like there.
But
not
again,
there.
hard for you.
Right.
So
hard for the family members. It's
hard for the
always
family
harder
members.
for the family members.
Sure.
And
Which is
again,
understandable.
right.
And I appreciate that. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if I'd rather mentally go before I physically go.
Go, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
then
but even
do
if
I
you
know?
think there are people that even with dementia, they might not be aware of their surroundings, but they don't want to be here.
Mm.
And there's like, well, why am I here?
Scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's my son? Where's my daughter? Who are you?
Yeah,
and
that's
so
fair. Yeah.
it's just that. So then they get anxious.
Mm.
They might get a little combative.
Yeah.
They won't take their medications. That kind of thing.
Sure.
So it is Really, really tough. Alzheimer's.
There's no
dementia, same thing.
good option.
No. It's
Just getting old, man.
Yeah, it is. And so again, with family members,
Depressing ass podcast.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad.
Here, wait. Wait, I gotta.
Hey, all I say is just spit the truth out. That's all. Keep doing it.
Here, will this be awkward?
Yeah, that might be a lot. Yeah.
But it is tough, and so I do work with a lot of families, just helping them cope, helping them understand, like seeing grandma, grandpa, seeing my parents, and this is going on, and it's tough because then they might yell at you for no reason, and you're like, I worked all day, and now I'm sitting here and they're yelling at me to go home, or where's this, or they're calling me my sister's name when I'm not,
Sure.
And if
it's
you correct
frustrating,
them,
too.
It is. So it's really hard to find that balance.
It's a big thing, though, because they run a lot of dementia commercials on TV right now. I mean, probably
So-
every other.
I was going to bring that up. Like,
Yeah.
it seems to me, and this could be an awareness thing too, kind of like autism, right? Or ADHD, or these things that we didn't have names for back in the day, right? It just was something's wrong.
Yeah.
They're hyper,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
or whatever.
Too
But
much sugar.
Too much sugar, yeah. But it seems like dementia and I would say schizophrenia are way higher than they used to be. Do you think that?
So they're
like, dude, I see so many people walking around the street talking to nobody, and some of it is probably drugs.
a lot of it is drugs.
Is it a
Especially
lot of it
nowadays,
drugs?
I would
Okay.
say the last 10 years with fentanyl,
Yeah,
right? And now fentanyl is just cut with everything,
yeah,
and they don't know
It's
that
just
they're
everywhere.
doing fentanyl.
Yeah.
So then creates like that psychosis in them.
Mm.
So, but with schizophrenia, with like bipolar disorder, with psychotic features, we have better screening tools now.
So you think we're identifying it?
We're
more?
identifying it. And usually with schizophrenia, typically, especially in males, it hits in their early 20s.
I've heard that.
You know,
I've heard
and
that,
so you know, I
was like, sweet.
so you're like, yeah, it's like, okay, I passed it. I made past it. But that does not mean that you can't experience a psychotic episode, stress induced.
Sure.
You know, someone close to you passing away or is witnessing some kind of trauma, right? You know, so that could induce, you know, psychosis.
Now, do you think that, and I don't mean to cut you off, I feel like the younger generations don't have the coping skills that like we were raised with. Do you think that could play into it?
I mean, coping skills are huge, but there's a difference. I mean, the younger generation, they also have social media to cope, right? They can like, oh my God, this is what's going on in my life, and other people can support them. Oh, this is what's happening to me. So they can find a lot of validation online.
Do you think that does that actually work?
It can work. Like, there are ways for it to be healthy.
I just feel like everything done on social media is so damn bad.
It can be, right?
No, but people are mean, man.
but if we look at and pull back and just look at science in general, science can be used for good, or for bad, right? Atomic bomb.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's just like there are things from a scientific perspective. No, I'm not a scientist,
right?
But there's a lot of research out there, right? And so,
well, and I've heard an argument to be made too of where you know, people like us will say, "Oh, kids don't have community anymore. They don't get outside and play."
Yeah.
Well, growing up, I had a handful of friends. You know what I mean? My cousin was like my brother growing up.
Yeah.
Now these kids have friends all over the world.
Oh yeah.
So there's an argument to be made of like there is community. It's just different, and it's not what we're used to.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And also too, like my youngest son is 8, and we live in a relatively safe neighborhood. And my youngest son, he's autistic. And so now we're starting to let him go outside and play by himself. And there's a playground, and he'll ride a scooter, and he'll go over there. I'm like, hey, talk to me about crossing the street. What does that look like? Oh, I got to look both ways. And if I see a car, I wait and I wave at it, and then I walk across, you know, so do that. But he's been able now, he goes to the park and plays 30, 45 minutes.
That's hard.
And so for Matt and I, my husband, like, we're like, okay, should we go check on him? What's going to happen? And actually one time we went to find him. We couldn't find him.
Really?
For 30 to 40 minutes. And I was like, and he was just across the street. There's another kid that goes to it in the same classroom right behind the house, just like this kind of like ravine and kind of like cute little area. Yeah. So they call it like their secret hideout. He was back there. But I'm like, hey, Sal. I'm like walking on crazy because I'm like, oh, like this is terrible parenting.
Yeah.
He got, you know, and that's where he was.
Dude, I'm the same. Zoe's going to be 18 in next month.
Yeah.
And I'm still that way with her. I'm like, is your location on your phone?
Right.
Where are you going?
Yeah. You know, I always say to my husband, I'm like, we put tracking devices in our animals. Why can't we do that? You know, because again, I'm like,
cell phone,
if he's gone, then okay, this is where he is.
Yeah.
You know, but
especially with girls, man, I'm very.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
good though too, because kids need that freedom.
They do, exactly. They have to learn how to navigate, right? Yeah. So when something happens, then your parent like, hey, this is what you did.
Yeah.
You were supposed to come back this time, or this happened. Where were you? So that accountability aspect.
Right.
But it's tough. So it's part of like letting go, giving them enough room to find that independence and find their own voice, right? Because now he's like, oh, I've made friends. I played. I did this. I did that. And I'm like, oh, very cool, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes me feel better.
There's
but
a
I'm
reward
still
there.
right, exactly. But I'm still very wary, you know?
Yeah.
I remember growing up, like my mom and my dad, they didn't trust anyone. You know, I was born in New York, then grew up in New Jersey, then moved to Phoenix. I had 0 friends.
Oh, really?
You know, and my mom was like, I was like, hey, can I go over to so-and-so's house? I don't know. No.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
and I was like, and I'm, you know, and my mom's a black woman. So there was a lot of distrust back then.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just remember one time my friends, it was a state fair. They came rolling up in the back of a pickup truck, and my mom was like, "Yep, you're not going anymore." And I was like, "Why can't I go?"
Hey, Dekel, we're going to the fair, bro. You want to go?
And I
Jump on in, brother.
I was devastated. But now, as a parent, I was like, "Oh, okay, I can kind of probably see why."
Yeah.
But
I'm still that way with the girls, man. Zoe will be like I said, she's damn near an adult, and she's like, "Can I go to my friend's house?" I'm like, "Do I know him?"
Yeah, do I know him? Right? Yeah. What's your address? Yeah.
Was it? Let me look on that creepy. What's the offender map? Oh, yeah. What's your address?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we have a 16-year-old, and he's out there, you know, hanging with friends and things like that. We have his location, but again, I'm just
let's just say real quick, you have 3 adopted sons.
Yes. Yeah.
Hats off to you, bro. I mean, seriously, that's something on its own. I mean, and I've met them all. They're great guys, but I know they keep you on your freaking toes too.
Oh my gosh. Oh yes, they do.
So do you find that doing what you do all day in the community that you're in is mentally exhausting and emotionally exhausting, and when you get home, you're just done?
Oh, I'm done. I told my family that when I get home, I am not your therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a firm boundary. Like, yeah, we'll talk, we'll do that,
Right.
but I'm your dad, and
Got to draw
if,
that
and
line.
like,
right?
and like, if your ass needs to be whooped, it might happen, right? Like, that's like the black,
I'll do
parody
that.
kind of coming in.
Yeah,
Right?
Get one of these too.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, you gotta bring the black parody. Listen, don't make me whoop your motherfucking ass right now, okay?
Sometimes you got to whoop some ass, man.
but like, so it's just like, and try to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Our 16-year-old Julius, like, he was doing really well at school, and then the last like 4 months just fell off the wagon, not doing well.
Yeah.
So we're just like, look, I'm like,
It's
you
almost
need
the
to
end of the
talk
year,
about
bro.
it. Right.
Finish
I'm like, finish strong. But I mean, he's had some stuff happen to him, and I know
Yeah.
he internalized a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, you need to talk with us.
Mm.
If you're in school and you're getting distracted and you're not doing your work,
Mm.
you need to talk with us and let us know. Don't wait to the last moment, and then you have 2 D's and an F.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so buddy,
Let it
what's
build
up?
up.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Well, this going on. I'm like, well, now it's an excuse.
Yeah.
Right. So now you need to get your stuff done.
Right.
But I tell him I'm not a therapist. Like, that is just not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Is it a good idea for you to have that as your profession and have to have that at home though? I mean, I would think you'd want, even therapists have their own therapists, right?
Oh, yeah, a lot of them do.
I mean,
I always encourage, like, when we were adopting our youngest, my husband and I, we met with a couples therapist just to kind of go over some things, right? Fine tune stuff, talk about things, because like our oldest son Shavy, we got when he was in high school, so he was already kind of through all that,
Sure.
Julius, we got him. God, he's like 6 years old, and then we got him full time a couple years ago. So he was a little bit older.
Yeah.
But then we were starting off with a baby.
Yeah.
And that's a different ball game. So we just wanted to, like,
And
to
the
make
family
sure.
was still kind of involved there for a little
Exactly. Yeah. Because we were fostering for a little bit before the adoption. But recommending like finding a good therapist, I always say it's like finding a
bit.
good pair of
It's
shoes.
hard, bro.
You
I've
have
looked
to go
for the
through 'em.
girls and stuff recently, especially with everything with Becca. And
Yeah.
man, it's hard. It is really hard.
It is. I think since COVID, more people are seeking therapists, which is great.
Yeah.
But now the ratio, it's just like,
Even finding a doctor.
It's
Yeah,
too-
yeah,
The
yeah.
ratio is too much of a gap.
Yeah.
Between,
yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and they all do online now, which I guess is just something that we have to get used to as a, I would say culture, but some people are used to it and I'm not.
Yeah.
But even my daughters, they're like, I don't want to do online. Like, I want to go to
Yeah, I wanna
someone's
go to
office
someone,
and
yeah.
talk
Yeah,
to them,
yeah.
and it's not even available out there right now.
There's a Psychology Today. That's a pretty good website where a lot
You
of
told me about that one.
therapists,
I did
and
look
you
on
can
that one.
like say, hey, in person only. So I do in person like 3 days a week, and then
Okay.
telehealth like Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
And there are some clients where they only prefer telehealth.
Yeah.
There's some that
Yeah.
are like, I only prefer in person, and someone's
I
like
mean,
a
I
hybrid
get it.
approach.
You're busy. It's,
Yeah.
it's another appointment you don't have to make. You can sit in your car and get
Exactly.
on your phone and
Exactly.
knock
Yep.
it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
And the convenience in having that.
Yeah.
Because before, if it was like, oh, I have to like leave work and drive in traffic, and then it's kind of tough.
Yeah,
But
it is
now, lunch break, you can sit in your car and
Yeah.
do 45, 55
Have
minutes.
a
and
whole
like-
conversation.
yeah, and have a whole
Yeah.
conversation.
Right there
you
in
know?
the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I just called Dekel and bitch. And then he sends me a bill. So what do you think about websites or apps like BetterHelp? Are they seeing the same people over and over again, or are you just jumping on and getting a random therapist every time? I don't
so
know.
with BetterHelp, that I'm not sure.
Okay.
I
I know
did
there's some
hear,
quick hitters now, right?
Yeah, so like I did hear that, like, if you don't like your therapist, like, you can switch. And I mean, that's really for any therapist. So if you go and see someone and you're sitting there in front of them, because even when I'll do a phone consult, like 10, 15 minutes, usually after that, they're like, you know what, I have a good feeling about you, and then we'll schedule our intake. Even after the intake, I'm like, okay, how was that for you? Do you want to continue? And if they're like, yes, I'm like, great, And there are I'll have to say 99% of the time, if I do an intake, they continue.
That's good.
But
That reflects well on you.
I mean, hopefully, But there are times where I'll work with a client for maybe 6 to 9 months, and then they're like, hey, it's been really good, but I want to find a therapist that maybe looks more like me or had this,
Really?
and that's fine as well. I have to say that for a long time, especially in the Black community, we didn't go do therapy. Like, that's
Right.
just not what we did, right?
Sure.
You solve the problem on your own, right? You know what I mean?
Knuckle out.
You go to the barbershop, right? You know what I mean? Or if you're a woman, you go to
same
the
for me growing up
hairstylist.
in a small town. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't a Black community. It was very much a white community. But
Yeah.
but if you were going to a therapist, you were weird.
Yeah,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
I've been
People
telling my
talk
mom
about
for years, like, you should see a therapist. You know, she's been through a lot of shit, and she's never gone.
Back then, Black people didn't talk about going to the therapist. Not at all. The word, couldn't even pronounce the word.
Right.
at the time, you know. So now it's a big thing. You know,
So a lot of Black people of color are, because I have to say probably 65-70% of my clients are people of color.
Yeah. Oh, really?
You know, I won't say mainly work, but a lot of them are queer as well. But it is nice to see, because a lot of them are just like, it is nice to see someone that kind of looks like you or has that similar experience,
right?
You know, but as a therapist, so years ago, up in Snohomish County, I worked with adult sex offenders.
Yeah, you're saying that.
Like, obviously, I did not do that, you know, so there was not a shared experience, right? So I can say, I know what you've been through, right?
That's crazy. So I got to ask, did you volunteer to do that? Like, how
did
that come about?
So I was working at a community mental health agency. And I met someone that did that, and it was really interesting to me. I was like, "Oh, what? Okay." And I kind of worked underneath them and had an office and started, and it was very interesting.
So I've heard, and I think you and I have had a conversation about this, and this could be a very controversial clip for the socials. I've heard that they're trying to make that a sexual identity.
It's like a sex offender?
Yeah, well, not offenders. I know you can't say the P word on YouTube and stuff like that. What do they call it? They call it youth attracted.
Oh, really? I did not hear.
Didn't you and
that.
I talk about that? I must have been talking to somebody else. There's a I don't know what the push is, but I know that there was a TED Talk about it. I know that there was probably some sort of group that is trying to head it up. But there has been talks of a sexual identity being, and I want to say it's the youth attracted.
Wow. So
that blows my mind.
So here's an interesting thing. So I went to a conference some years ago, and they're presenting. They were from Amsterdam, and this was I want to say at least 10 years ago. What they did was they realized that there were a lot of men that were getting in trouble or getting arrested for molesting a little boy, little girl kind of thing. And so what they were trying to do was like, okay, how about we create a hotline where if you feel these urges, call into the hotline, talk with someone, and then it could get bumped up where maybe you can see a doctor or a therapist. And they rolled it out. And they said within the first year, they had hundreds of calls.
Really?
Like, guys are like, I've never touched, like, I'm married, I have 3 kids. God. I've never touched, but I'm having these thoughts.
That's crazy, dude.
And they were able to then get help. And what's
interesting...
Did
they see a dip in crime?
They at least for those first couple years, they're just saying that they saw a record number of calls and referrals to psychiatrists, doctors, all that kind of stuff. But what was nice about it is they were also taking the stigma away. And the crazy thing is that they had a commercial where it's like, you're sitting like, you're sitting with your family, then it's just like a guy, his face is blurred out, and he's getting up and he's like, I'm married with 3 kids and I go to work and this. And then I also think about touching a little boy or this.
My God.
And I'm watching this as an American.
I might have to clip some of this.
But it is interesting because I'm sitting here going, what? This would never happen in the U.S.
No.
Never happen in the U.S.
Amsterdam, you said, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff goes on in Amsterdam.
But
You've been to
Germany,
Amsterdam, right? Wasn't your wife from Amsterdam?
No, she was from Copenhagen.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been to Amsterdam a few times, so there's a lot of stuff going on over there.
But you know what? Europe, they're just so much more progressive in terms of tackling mental health, right? Destigmatizing things. And again, yes, we know that no one can agree like, oh, that is a healthy way of doing things. But there are a lot of men and women that do have these urges. So is it better for them to come out early and say, I've been having these thoughts, I need help?
Yeah.
Or them just sitting with it then something happens.
I mean,
right?
you don't want anything to happen.
Right.
You obviously don't want anything to happen.
But in this country, I doubt that would happen.
That's just a little bit too much for this country.
Yeah. Well, and with every group that there is backing something, there's a group pushing against it. Right. And I can imagine that the group pushing against that would be a large group. Be a very large group.
But look at how we sexualize everything in this country, right?
Yeah.
When you go to a movie, right? I mean, we actually put more like kind of violence, up top. But even like shows, there's gratuitous sex, right? But if someone may be just naked walking from the shower to the bedroom, that's like, but in Europe, that's normal, right? They normalize naked. Being naked does not equate sex.
I always thought it was funny too. Like, you let the kids watch a horror flick, at 13, 14 years old or whatever. And they're like, oh, it's fake blood. The guy's getting a head getting chopped off. Don't worry about it. Wait, cover your eyes or her shirt's coming off.
Yeah,
Cover your
right.
eyes.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is, right?
Yeah.
And if you start covering their eyes, they're like, well, that means I can't see that. Now I
Yeah.
want to see that, right?
Right.
So then what happens is then they start going to their friend's house, getting on their internet.
Yeah.
And then they're going to see, and right now, I think the latest research that came out was, I think 10 years old is when kids now are seeing porn for the first time.
Exposed to it. It's so
Yeah.
easy to get to.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
It's free.
It's
You just gotta
everywhere.
ty-
It's
When
everywhere.
I was a kid, you were walking down the street and you're like, is that boobs on that magazine?
Yeah.
What the hell? You're like, score! Go show all your buddies.
all your friends and stuff. Yeah.
Look through
Yeah.
J.C. Penney.
Yeah.
JC Penney,
Is that
Sears catalog.
Cheryl
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
The lingerie section.
Yeah. You know, but nowadays, it is. It's everywhere.
It is.
It's
It's
easily
everywhere.
accessible, right? And so that's why, talking to hopefully parents that are listening.
Yeah.
If you have a teenager, 10, 11, 12, if they have a cell phone,
Mhm.
you need to go through their cell phone.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of parents about, I don't want to infringe on their privacy.
Hell no, infringe.
No, because what happens is they don't know, and there are a lot of adults that are predators.
Yeah.
When
And this is
Julius-
coming from a mental health professional.
Yeah,
People.
when Julius was 12 and he's like, "Can I use your laptop to play Roblox?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." I said before, I'm
Roblox
like,
is a big one.
"What are the rules? You don't tell people your name.
Mhm.
You don't tell people the city that you live in. You don't do that."
Right.
I said there are a lot of people that pose as a 13-year-old girl or boy, and they're really 35 years old.
I used to love that show that came on TV where the news guy pretend that he was.
It was
To Catch a Predator.
To Catch a
Yes,
Predator.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
he
Yeah.
got sued, I think.
Did he really?
I believe that's why it's off. I think
Oh, wow.
there was some. It was like an entrapment thing, I think.
Oh, okay.
And he got in
okay,
trouble.
makes
But
sense.
yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Well, did you bring the condoms and the tequila? Yeah, I'll be right out. Chris Hansen comes out. Why don't you have a seat?
Have a seat there, yeah.
What's in the bag?
Yeah, that was. I watched it. I was like, this is
Yeah, what's going on here? What's happening here?
Yeah,
So you
but-
like little girls, do you? Huh?
Yeah,
Crazy,
it was really bad. But it is like having a talk with your kids. I mean, so, my teenager all the time, I'm like, what aren't you supposed to send people? He's like, no dick pics. I'm like, say it louder, because again,
Right.
we had the conversation.
You got to be honest with
You
them. man.
have to, because I told him, I'm like, if you send it to someone, they're going to send it to someone,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, it's going to be
It's a
in the
chain
internet, and it's right
reaction.
there,
Yeah.
And he's seen it firsthand where he'll show me someone from school sent something on Instagram or whatever it is, and they screenshot it or whatever it is, and now it's around the school,
Yep.
and then now they have to leave, So it's
Especially like with girls, man. Like I'm fortunate. As far as I know, my girls are good girls.
Yeah.
But I worried about it for a long time, because boys can talk girls into
Yeah.
taking a topless picture
Oh, yeah.
and sending
Oh,
it
yeah.
out, and now it's out there, you know. And
yeah.
do you worry about that more with boys? Because I know, like, when I talk to my girls, like girls are like, I don't want to watch porn.
No.
It's not their thing.
Yeah.
But boys, I mean,
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. I mean, it's like talking with them, like talking with Julius all the time, and saying that again, like watching porn, it's okay,
Mhm.
but then we talk about what porn is appropriate, right? Talk about porn is not real,
Yeah.
and just like having them
Sets
understand.
expectations for a young man that
It does.
are
It
completely
really does.
unrealistic.
Yep.
Completely unrealistic.
Right, yeah. And then also too, there are a lot of adolescents that I work with that like they're like, oh, my penis is so small because they would only watch porn and they had this
Mentality. that-
right
Yeah.
that and it's
right.
just like that's not real.
Yeah.
And so but there are a lot of boys for a long time a lot of young girls would have body dysmorphia or
Yep,
they're
for
trying
sure.
to get skinny,
Right.
but it's same thing with boys. Now they're going to the gym, they want to get the 8-pack and the 6-pack in
Oh
their
man,
arms,
all
they're
the
gonna get bigger.
gym dudes on
Yes.
Instagram
Yeah,
and TikTok
it's not
and
healthy,
YouTube. It's
right?
crazy,
It's
man.
feeding into this unhealthy behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if you want to be a professional bodybuilder, there are things, there's classes, there's there's a process.
And there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. For
Exactly.
Sure. But you look at some of those guys now; they're deflated. They can't move.
Right,
because
right.
they did it the wrong
They did
way.
it the wrong way, that's why you find like a certified license, this, and then you're like,
Trainer,
okay,
yeah.
exactly. But again, with the rise of technology, it can be good,
Right.
and then it can also be bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Just depends
it's
on how you use it.
Yeah, monitoring your kids, talking to them. I call our 16-year-old. He was like watching something. I'm like, what's that? He's like, nothing. I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, but you don't watch something where like the woman's getting beat up or this.
Oh,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
like
yeah.
just talking about what's appropriate.
Right.
I saw a comedian on Facebook. He was talking about he liked dating women that the kid just moved out of the house, and now he's a man kid now. And he's like, they're doing something wrong when you walk in the room and they got the laptop and they close it.
They close it real fast.
Then they ask you this crazy question. So who's running for Congress?
Well, and I find now that I'm getting older, like I'll just be watching a TV show. I'll be sitting there, whatever show. You put it on, and you're like, oh, this is a nice show.
Yeah.
And then there's a sex scene.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't care anymore, man.
No,
I don't
no.
need sex in my shows. You can do we show it's going to happen, and then you just jump cut.
And you're like,
Just jump cut it,
yeah.
all right? You're wasting my time.
But you know
I
the
want
thing,
the other part.
sex sells.
It does.
It does,
It
right?
does. It
And even though
sells
we
like
condemn
crazy.
it as a society, we still push it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Push it. It
Always.
sells.
It
Trust
sells.
me, I know. That
Yeah.
was my topic at one time.
That's why I've been trying to get him to do the podcast with his shirt off, but he won't do it.
Barely. I had girls parking cars in Dallas, all girls, no guys.
Yeah.
And all other car lots was empty. They want to park for the girls.
Yeah, that's true.
So it sells.
It's
Yeah.
the bikini baristas out here.
Oh,
You know
no,
what
yeah,
I mean?
exactly. Because
Yeah,
baristas,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
OnlyFans is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm glad, like, my girls are old enough where I'm gonna knock on this wood table, that I don't think they see that as a avenue, but there are young women out there right now that it's like, do I want to be a scientist or a doctor or a real estate agent or an OnlyFans model?
OnlyFans, yeah.
It's like a legit career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy to me.
I mean, and the thing about it, too, with OnlyFans is that there are professional athletes, like Olympians, that do OnlyFans, but it's not nudity, just to
right.
help pay for their bills because they have such a small stipend. Like,
so is OnlyFans only pornography?
no,
it's not,
no,
right?
it's not. Yeah.
You can do whatever.
You can
on
do
it.
whatever,
Foot,
exactly.
hand,
Yeah.
nails, all
yeah.
that.
I mean, there are people with OnlyFans that do very specific things like, cater to certain kinks or fetishes.
Right.
That
Like I've heard of
might-
people like eating on there.
Oh,
Like-
yeah.
Like they
yeah.
just eat.
They just eat. Oh, yeah. There are.
I might sign up for that.
Well, you know what's actually really crazy? And this is where it pushes the boundaries of really what we want in society, but like on YouTube. There are people that now do sleep streams.
I've
You
heard of
them?
that, dude.
Yeah.
That freaks
What is
me
sleep
out.
stream?
So basically,
That
they
freaks
set
me
up a
out.
camera and they sleep and they're
They let
recorded.
people watch them.
But what happens is that it's not there. There's some people that just do it. It's very just benign and innocent. But there are a lot of guys where they'll wear very tight shorts, so they'll get an erection,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's when likes and people views,
Right.
and that's what they do. Or and so even on YouTube, they're pushing the boundaries
yeah.
of sexual content.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
crazy world.
They
it really
sneak
is.
it in there.
do.
Like again, the gym bros, the gym gals, whatever the ladies are called.
Mhm.
They're on there in the tightest clothes possible.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching your squat.
No one, yeah. No one cares like how
Nobody
many
cares
reps.
about your form.
Yeah.
You know exactly what. Yeah, you know exactly what you're watching
Oh,
for.
you got
yeah.
a big old chest.
Yeah. But there are guys that will get on a trampoline with like loose shorts and they'll have an erection and they're like, watch this backflip. Like, that's not that.
That's a great
You know,
backflip.
like that, and I'm like, I did gymnastics. That's
10.
not but
That's a
that's
10.
what they're doing because they just want to push that boundary to get followers,
Yep.
then get subscription, whatever. But there is this blurred line now.
And it's funny because, doing this podcast, this is all new for all of us. First one you've been on.
Yeah.
First one that Hampton and I have ever had and hosted. It's really hard to do something that's honest, which is what we're doing. We're bringing in local business owners. We're bringing in people that we know and like, we're just trying to have an organic conversation and push it. And it's really hard to get people to follow and pay attention to just normal things.
Oh yeah,
Because you're up against boners doing backflips.
yeah, that could be a YouTube channel right there, right? Holy fans, come on.
That's actually our next podcast, guys. It's called Boners Doing Backflips.
How many guys out there do backflips with boners? Please contact Joe Shelton, okay?
We need a bigger room for that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
All right,
Oh, my
so
goodness.
getting off of all.
I was looking at your
Go ahead.
book. Is something you want to
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say we went off on a tangent, but
Yeah,
you
we
got a
did,
lot of
yeah,
stuff here.
I saw you got that in front of you, so maybe you might want to.
So in terms of like kind of getting back to therapy, right? So So
Which we're all going to need after this.
I know, right? So again, like clients come in with, some type of life-changing events, right? Maybe someone passed away that was close with them, they're grieving, or just they are just feeling depressed. They're like, I don't know why. I just have low motivation. It's hard to get out of bed, right?
Right.
And so there is a stigma with depression and anxiety, right?
Okay.
A lot of people, they don't want to tell their family, right? They try to hide it best they can, but eventually it comes out.
I can
right?
see that as being a dad and a husband. And
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously we know that you went through something recently, right? With the
Sure.
loss. And how hard was that for you?
it was
right?
hard, man. Very hard.
And yes, you had support, you had family, you had friends I could turn to, but some people don't have that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like coming to therapy. A lot of times people are like, I've never done therapy before. I'm really nervous. Like, I don't know what to talk about. It's like, well, just talk about you, So in terms of approaches, every therapist has a different type of approach, right? There's a different modalities out there. So for me, I try to stay as present as I can, right? So even with someone that had
I
trauma.
would think that's probably the most important thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now there are Freudians, like psychoanalysts, they love kind of going in the past and kind of staying there, which is okay.
Sure.
But for me,
Figure
I
out where it
ask,
stems from or whatever.
right. But even if you figure out where it stems from, you can't go back.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
So I focus on what's happening now. What are the behaviors that's going on now that you want to change? What are your thoughts that are happening now that are intrusive or that are negative? Right. And that's where we stay. Now, it could have been some trauma, like as a kid, maybe abuse by the father, mother, or maybe they were in foster care. Right. But even with everything that happened to them in the past, we got to stay present.
Right.
Like, what's going on right now that is causing you issues? Why can't you get out of bed?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're not seeing your friends. What's going on with that, right?
Sure.
So when we talk about mind-body connection. So mind-body connection, we all experience a disconnect. So let's say you're at work and there's a meeting. And, your boss is droning on, right? Your body's there, but your mind is where? Your mind is like, right. You're like, okay, you know what? I got to go to the grocery store. And then I got to the girls. And then, what are we going to do for dinner? Oh, no, there might be traffic. No, and then you come back.
All the time.
And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's great, boss. And then you're right back, right?
Driving,
right? And have you ever driven and then going, wait, I drove, but I don't remember driving these last 2 miles.
How the hell did I get here?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we weren't present, right?
Yeah.
Because our mind was just somewhere else. So helping that mind-body connect again to stay present. So there was a client who had a motorcycle, right? And he loves riding his motorcycle, loves driving fast, And I was like, great. I said, but the next time you drive, all I want you to do is slow down, do the speed limit, and just like look around and see if you can find something new. And he's like, I drive this route all the time. I'm like, try it and see. 2 weeks later, I see him. He's like, I saw so many new things. He was like,
because he was
didn't
present.
realize he was present. He's like, all I did was just slow down and do like 85. I'm like, that's slowing down, right? But I was like, that's good.
I think I've seen that guy.
But he was
85.
like, I saw things, and he was like, it was different.
Yeah.
He's like, I arrived to my destination, and I felt better. I didn't feel rushed, know?
Yeah.
So that mind-body connection in terms of how do we stay present. So usually client always like, well, how do you do that? You practice it. So if you're doing something, if you're in the middle of the mall, if you're at home, and all of a sudden you notice that your thoughts are just kind of going elsewhere, you just say, hey, where am I and what am I doing? And that will help you come back to being present. Right?
Now, is that something that you would say for everyone, or like, because I do it all the time.
Yeah,
man.
everyone.
My mind is going a million miles. Even when I do these podcasts, usually I'm sitting across from someone, and I've known you for a long time, so there's a level of comfort here that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But people that I've never met before, I'm always thinking of that next question while
right.
they're talking.
Yes.
And I'm trying to stay present in the conversation, but I'm thinking of where we're going.
Yes.
I used to do it, when I sang. You've been to my shows back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I would be on stage singing a song, and I'd sing it so many times. I'm like, man, after I get out of here, I got to go do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I do that all the time.
We kind of go through the motions,
So you
right?
think it's a good practice just for
It's
everybody.
always a practice. When I first started out doing therapy, one of the things I wanted to do was like, I wanted to help the client. And so as they were talking, I would either write down a little, but I was thinking about what could I do to help them get past this point. But then I realized that I'm not listening to them. I'm not actively listening.
Sure.
Right? I'm not staying present with them. They're telling me their story, and I'm thinking about what modality could I use? Oh, what homework would be good for them?
Yeah.
and I'm missing
What did
out.
I learn, or where's that
Exactly.
note? Yeah.
Exactly. So even in therapy, like I'll remind myself, hey, stay present. Where are you and what are you doing? Client in front of you, let's listen.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, grocery store, right? You
Yeah.
know, I'm just like walking around, like it's funny, like even Costco, like although Costco is a good store, I'm not a fan because people there are just absolutely crazy.
It's
like,
insane. And I spend way too much money when I go.
it's just like, for me, I get anxiety. Like I don't like going.
Yeah.
There should be a rule where when you have a shopping cart, you follow the rules of the road.
Dude, I agree, man.
You
I'm going to
know,
give that up.
I mean, like, I just don't understand. Follow the rules of the road.
Just get on the
If
right
you need-
side.
Right, exactly.
Why are you walking down the left side
And if
in my
there's
goddamn
5
way?
people in the way, like, I can't get through you. Yeah,
Or they just stop.
Yeah, they stop.
They just stop.
They just stop and they check their phone. What's going on? And I'm like, there's no horn. I can't. Then I can't go around because other people.
Shopping carts with horns.
Oh, see,
That's
there we
not a
go.
bad
Shopping cart with horns, right? But like I get a little anxiety going to Costco. So if I do go, I try to go first thing in the morning and I just go to the one thing I need and I'm out.
Right.
I try not to linger because if I do, I can just feel it in my body and I'm just like, I don't want to
Start
be
getting
here.
tense. Start getting stressed. Yeah.
And that's another thing talking with clients, right? Because we don't listen to our body. We don't, right? The only time now, I always laugh, like for men, the only time that we listen to our body is when we're hungry, right? We have to go to the bathroom or we're horny. Other than that, right? You know, we don't,
very true.
everything else is
very
kind of
true.
secondary.
Yeah.
So, but listen to your body. Like when you wake up in the morning, right? It's called a body scan. And you just kind of lay down and you're just like, okay, like, let's check on their body. Like, hey, toes, how you doing? Right? Like, you know, and doing that, right? You know, but again, like, because you just had surgery, right?
Yeah.
So now I bet you are more in tune with your body. You have to listen to it.
You have no idea how tuned I'm in with my body. I'm like, am I going to get up limping or am I going to get up strong? But I know one thing, I'm getting up because I got to pee.
You know what?
It all starts
You know
from-
what? You can get a bedside urinal, and that way you don't have to do that anymore.
That too, though, you know, but I'd rather try to just kind of loosen that leg up a little bit, you know.
But you know, I work with clients in terms of listening to your body.
Right.
Especially when you have depression, anxiety, trauma, right? Our bodies will let us know, hey, something's going on. You need to pay attention.
But how do you take that and apply it into everyday? Let's just say for an example, because I'm paying attention. I'm being in the moment with you right
Okay. Yeah.
now. I wake up in the morning. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Okay.
Everybody has those days.
Yeah.
I still got to go to work, man.
Yeah, you still
I got
gotta
things.
work.
I got things to do. So what's your advice? Like, how do you wake up? You do that body scan.
Right.
I'm assuming part of that body scan, it's a mental thing.
Yes,
Right. So you're in
yes.
your head at the time. You're in your
Yep.
head. You're trying to listen to your body. Your body's telling you it ain't happening today,
yeah,
bro.
you know? Yeah.
Like, what do? You got to push through, right?
So you push through, but I mean, even with that, in the moment, instead of you feel like, let's say you're like, oh, I hurt my back at work, right? Oh, I'm stiff. We can go down the negative road.
Sure.
Oh, I'm getting older. Oh, I should probably go to a chiropractor. But I got to do this, right?
Yeah.
But it's saying, hey, you know what? Lower back, I hear you. You're stiff.
Mm.
I'm going to work on you. You know, maybe we'll get some heating pad later on.
Okay.
But you take it from a either neutral or positive approach.
You're acknowledging it.
Exactly. Acknowledge it. Say, I will get back to you. Like right
you
now,
listening
we
right
got.
now?
You know,
Hey, I'm going to need that in the morning with the food truck. I'll be like, I got a food truck job in the morning. I better start focusing right now.
You got a tall body, dude. It's gonna take a long time to scan. So.
but that's just like with like body pain, right? But with people with severe depression, their body feels heavy.
Yeah.
They have these aches and pains. They have, their chest feels heavy. They don't want to eat. A lot of times it affects their sleep. So a lot of times, for a lot of people with severe depression, a lot of times bathing, showering, hygiene, it goes out the window.
I didn't use this word ever in my life until about a week ago, and I've used it for the first time, and the word was depression.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, I feel so depressed right now.
Okay.
You
I can
know,
tell, dude, when I was talking to you.
I'm so depressed right now. I told Christine, I said, you have never, ever, I'm 61 years old, I never used that word in my life.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I was feeling depressed. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I
First
can't
time you
do
ever been laid up like that.
I can't do anything for myself. I hate
Right.
counting on people to do stuff for
Right.
me. You know,
Right.
it just not that you don't want to ask for help, but you know, you got a certain way of doing things, and you know, I'm that person, as you said earlier, there. You know, I got to get up and go. I got to move. You know, and I done slowed down that tremendously.
Oh yeah.
you
And
know.
when that's taken away from you, that agency, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
ability, it's just, I mean, when you get older, my in-laws, they're kind of going through the same thing where my father-in-law had surgery, and now he can't drive. And he's just at home, and it's just like, I can hear it that he's depressed.
Yeah.
But he won't say it.
Sure.
Oh, I'm fine.
Of
I'm
course
good.
not.
Like, he's an old school, like,
Yep.
86, 87, I'm fine,
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine, but you can tell, like, it's really not fine, but he won't ever say it, right? So, yeah, but we all have been in a depressed mood, right?
Sure.
So there's a difference between major depressive disorder and being in a depressed mood for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And being in a depressed mood, that doesn't mean that it's bad. That
Right.
just means to acknowledge and be like, okay, like, this is how I'm feeling.
I mean,
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
Taking stock, you know?
Because like I said, I never would think I would use that word.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
never at all. But it just had to come out because that's where I was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and depression's a tough thing because again, growing up the way I grew up, you didn't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And depression, that was just you being lazy. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
That was you got a problem, fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned being a father and stuff, especially young ladies, like depression is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, and it can be triggered by peers, it can be triggered by family, school, whatever. And being depressed is much different than having a moment of depression.
Yes.
And it's I had to learn that because that was hard. I've never been a depressed person either. You know, I've had my moments
Right,
for
yeah,
sure. Everyone
yeah,
does.
yeah.
But I'm able to find my way out, and it's some people just don't find their way out.
No. And that's why, with depression, when I work with some clients, depending on the severity level, one of the things that we focus on is like, what makes you what makes you happy? So with depression, a lot of times their pleasurable activities are gone, right? They don't play soccer anymore or golf or this or that. They just kind of laying up. So
Just laid up.
Right, exactly. And they're just like, oh, I can't find the motivation. Nothing makes me happy, right? So usually if it's severe, when at that point, then it's like talking about get on antidepressants. Like, talking about doing referral to a psychiatrist, talking with your primary care doctor if they feel comfortable doing something like that. But it's really hard to help them to find joy again, right? And it could just be sometimes like little things.
Yeah.
So it's just about the little moments, right? So it's like, hey, if you got up and brushed your teeth, that's a gold star for you.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do that again tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? What else can we add to it, And just like having little things that they can do. And again, with depression, major depressive disorder, especially if it's like that moderate to severe, a lot of people don't want to go on medications because going on medications, it can help. I've seen a lot of clients.
Can't help, but sometimes it's looked at as affirmation is the right word. You're affirming that you have the issue, right?
So for some people, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or some people just don't want to take medicine.
That
right.
too. Okay, yeah.
And sometimes not sometimes, there are a lot of side effects with antidepressants.
Yeah.
Weight gain, sexual dysfunction, sometimes increased depression or anxiety.
Right.
So
We see those commercials where it's like, this is great for depression. You might kill yourself.
Yeah, no, but seriously,
like, holy
it's increased,
shit, man.
And so that's why we have a conversation now, because I'm not a medical provider,
Right.
but
You don't
if
do
my
prescriptions and
I don't do
stuff.
prescriptions, no, but we explore and process. So I have a client I'm working with who is afraid of taking antidepressants, but their depression is really severe.
Gotcha.
Right. So it's just like working through them, though they're kind of open to it, but there's some resistance. So just talking with them, with the resistance.
So what do you do in that scenario? Do you have to, because that's a psychologist?
Psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist.
Yes, psychiatry or nurse practitioner that specializes in psychiatry.
Do you work with someone, or do you have to pass that patient off?
Yeah, so I pass. So usually I could do a referral.
Okay.
Or I just talk with them like, hey, do you trust your primary care doctor? If they do, if it was like United or Health, then hey, ask them for a referral to see a psychiatrist. You know?
At that point, can they still come see you? Is
Oh
it a
yes, yeah,
separate thing?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. So the psychiatrists, they are medical providers. They're there just to do the medications for depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, whatever it is.
Right.
So when I see clients, whether they want to get on medication or already on medications, then we explore, okay, how are the medications working for you? Like, I think it's working. Well, what does that look like, right? So we explore, like, if they're on medications, do you see a difference? What's going on? What kind of improvement? And even talking about usually the first 2 weeks, you might exhibit side effects.
Yeah.
And like, that's okay because that's part of the process. Your body is metabolizing something new.
Yeah.
So that's why the doctor like, take it, don't stop taking it unless you're experiencing suicidal thoughts or your depression gets worse, right?
Right.
Then it's like, okay, maybe this not be the right one for you.
Yeah.
But I'm there with the clients working through it as they go through these medications to see like, and like, as I've had clients are like, oh my gosh, like this is working. Like this is really good.
Yeah.
So now we moved from them just being in bed all day Now they're like, now I can get up, but what? Yeah, you know,
First 10 days, I didn't get out of the bed. You know?
Yeah.
I was on my back. I'm not doing anything. No, goddamn thing.
And it's tough. Yeah, it's tough, you know, because sometimes you want to do something, but you just don't have the motivation.
No, didn't have it at all. Anger came in, pulled me out of bed.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and with motivation too, like there's two types of motivation. There's internal and external.
Right.
Sometimes you can have family friends like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. They can be your cheerleader. But if your internal motivation is not up to par, if it's not doing well,
I'm gonna punch you.
right, you know, I mean, you're not going to get out of bed. Just like for individuals that are substance use, like, you know, alcohol, right? You can have your husband, your wife, your cousin, your family friends like, look, you can't drink anymore. You can't do this.
Right.
They know it, but they still turn to it, right?
Right.
So usually what happens is something bad happens, a DUI, you know, so, you know, or the wife is like, you need to leave.
The rock bottom, as they say.
Exactly. You know, then they're like, now they're forced to deal with whatever issue.
Right.
But the internal motivation part is really, really tough.
Yeah.
So what I usually do is I have clients try to find their anchor.
Okay.
What tethers them to this world?
Okay.
What is it about the one thing that they absolutely love? You know, it could be their kids, or it could be art, or it could be this, or it could be music. You know, there's something, and how can we work that into getting you up?
Is there always something?
And
there's always something.
Yeah.
That's my food truck in the bar.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
so that's, you know, even I come up with that cripple, like I got it until I can't take anymore. You
Yeah.
know? But that's my motivation. You know, I mean, I build that to not let it slip away. You know? So that's not going to happen at all.
Blood, sweat, and tears you put into it. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And I got to keep going. You know?
Yeah.
You're getting there, bro. You're getting there.
Got to keep going.
I got you, boo.
Thanks, bro.
but earlier you said talking like finding a therapist. It is very challenging, and I always just say, hey, like go on different profiles, read it, right? Call the therapist, ask to do a 10 to 15 minute phone consultation, and then go see him. Do an intake.
Are you accepting clients right now?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Yeah.
So
I
how?
heard that, right? He's accepting.
Here we go. There's one out there.
Just want to make sure y'all got that little piece of note there. He is accepting clients, okay?
Go ahead and put, what's the name of your
Positive Awakenings.
Positive Awakenings? And you're in Renton.
In Renton, yeah.
And you do in-person and online, or just
Yes,
in person?
both.
You
Yep,
do
I do
both.
both.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
How many spots do you have open? Like how fast are you filling up?
So I just got credentialed with Kaiser, so I'm having some new clients there. But I have about like 7 spots a week. So some are weekly and some are like bi-monthly.
Okay.
Because I see a lot of clients that from 3-4 years ago that have been doing well. We cut down to like bi-monthly. So then if a new client comes in, I'm
Opens
like,
up a
this is
little
what I
bit.
have openings. I have like
Start
bi-monthly
filling the
will
blocks
stay.
in the schedule, right?
Exactly, from little blocks and stuff. So yeah.
I like Kaiser. Yeah, Kaiser. Yeah. Used to have them in San Diego.
What's your main focus? I know when I've looked for therapists in the past, you've got couples therapy, you've got youth therapy, you've got grievance therapy. Like, so what's your main?
So
focus?
I like individual. So my license is a licensed mental health counselor. So I work with individuals.
Okay.
So for me, usually it's about like 13, 14 on up. I used to work with kids and kiddos, especially younger kiddos. You want to do more play therapy.
Right.
And it's definitely a challenge. And it's kind of fun, but it's like not my cup of tea.
Sure.
I did that. I'm like, okay, cool. Liked it, but I'm that's not for me. And which is fine. There's some therapists that love doing play therapy.
You want to do what you're good at, right?
Exactly.
And what you want to be doing. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I, my practice, I do have a lot of queer clients coming in, and especially now with everything going on,
Sure.
just like they feel like their identity is being stripped away,
Yeah.
right, and being attacked. So just feeling safe about getting out, that kind of thing.
And if you can corral that community, the queer community, why not?
Yeah,
Why not? I mean, just do it.
And but also too, it's just even within the queer community, there's a stereotype that, gay people, we all have a lot of money, like we're all interior designers and we travel and all this stuff. And that is not the case. There are a lot of younger queer, right, that are maybe working at the grocery store, right? Or they make like $18 an hour and they don't have health insurance.
Sure.
So if you don't have health insurance, guess what?
Yeah.
Therapy is expensive,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Most therapists charge between $100 and it could be $200 a session.
Yeah.
So that's expensive. And if you don't have health insurance,
Yep.
and if they are fortunate to get on Medicaid does not have a high reimbursement rate. I think in the state of Washington, it's like $78 for a session.
Right.
I mean,
So now you're about 100 no, you're probably about $120 short. Now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
so there are some therapists that will they will apply to get Medicaid, but they'll only maybe see like 10 Medicaid clients out of their whole caseload, kind of thing.
Right.
But you can go to a community mental health agency. So community mental health agencies, they're the backbone.
Okay.
I mean, they serve a lot of hard populations. But with community mental health agencies, it's, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of thing. Some evenings, but it's
Well,
hard.
and I would assume they fill up fast too.
And they also fill up really fast.
I mean, just like the men's homes and women's homes, if you have nowhere to sleep, trying to get into one of those to get a bed, from what I understand, is damn near impossible.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, too, a lot of people that are chronically homeless, they actually prefer sleeping outside because going to a homeless shelter is not safe. Their stuff gets stolen.
Yeah.
And even then, I had a client. She was homeless. We were looking for housing for her. She was on oxygen, but a lot of homeless shelters don't take individuals that have oxygen because it's considered medical equipment. So it's like we try to get them in a hotel for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks and
Struggle, man.
trying to
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
I used to deal with a homeless place in Kent where it was housing a family, I should say. It was a family group. So, I used to take the food truck out there every Wednesday and just feed the whole community right there. It was about I can't think of the name of that church, but it's a big old Catholic church right off of Meeker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
All right.
But I used to do it a lot down there. It just shut it. I think it shut it down right after COVID though. But that was my go-to spot all the time, and it was all family, mom, children.
Oh wow.
Sometimes it's just people down on their luck. You know what I mean? I mean, there's people that are chronically homeless and on drugs and stuff like that. And there's people that just had a hard go. Something happened.
Something happened, yeah.
You hear about these guys that work for companies for 30, 40 years and get fired. You know what I mean? Out of nowhere. And just before they get their pension, you know what I mean? Like there's some shit that goes down sometimes.
And with everything just being so expensive now, it's just it's hard to save. Even if you have a two income household, right? And you're like, well, on paper, we should be rich, but looking to my bank statement, that's not happening, But just, I mean, most people now live paycheck to paycheck. And then also there is an inherent stress, that anxiety. Oh, my kids want to do this and they want to do this, but I can't afford it, and that kind of thing. But I
saw a video the other day. It was this older guy, like old cowboy looking guy, right? And he's like, a lot of people ask me how I've provided for my family and done this and that, and I have my house, and he's just like a construction worker or something like that. And he said, it's real easy. It's an easy program. It's called no. He said, you want to go see a movie? No. You want to go out to dinner? No. I want to buy a new car? No. That's hard to do nowadays, though, man.
It's hard to do. I mean, look, my 8-year-old, I'm in the grocery store. Ooh, no. And I just say it. And then now he just knows.
I don't even know what you want.
Yeah, Issa will just know. He'll be like, oh, you're going to say no again. I'm like, yeah. Because, I mean, we'll take the kids to the movies. Like, like Sonic 3.
Yeah.
4 tickets to, like, the Dolby.
Yeah.
It's like $90.
I know, dude. It's crazy.
And
I don't go to the movies at all anymore. I think the last one I went to was probably with you guys, because you go all the time.
I mean, it's still fun, but it's just now we don't go as often.
No.
And it's just like people, can we? No, we're going to eat before.
Yeah.
Or we do the McDonald's thing, put it in the bag, and even bring it in, Like, I remember we went...
Dad, why are you carrying a purse?
No, seriously. We went and saw with Jamal and Matt and a few, and then our family. It was Endgame, Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
And this family comes in late, a lot of kids. So I was like, okay, whatever. And she's passing around food. I was like, and then I'm like,
you had the tinfoil.
I mean, it was so much noise. And Jamal and I looking at each other. I was like, what is going on over here? And then ding. I'm like, was that a microwave? Like, what? I mean, good Lord. But I understand.
It reminds me of that. Wasn't it a scary movie when the girl gets out there? She's got ribs.
Yeah, seriously. But it's so expensive. I mean, we went to the movies one time. We were out just running around. Kids were hungry. We're like, all right, we'll get the pizzas and the popcorn. It was like $120.
Yeah, when you decide, I'm just going to screw it. We're going to go pay while we're there. Immediately after, you're like, that was a horrible idea.
Like, I can't believe. I'm like, y'all better eat that slow. Enjoy everything. You better eat all that popcorn.
There's a popcorn kernel in there still.
Oh, man.
I remember the last time I've been to a movie. But the last time I went to a movie, I was living in Texas, and it was $1.
Dollar Theater. Remember the Dollar Theaters?
Yeah. Are they around still?
I don't think they are anymore.
I don't think there are,
Used to have Dollar Theater. You can go see the older movies.
Yeah. Even drive-ins.
Yeah, drive-ins.
Every Sunday I was at the Dollar Theater.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
Yeah. Well, look,
Solo or with somebody. You know?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really didn't care.
Look, my mom will give my brother and I like $5.
Yeah.
We could spend all day at the movies.
Right?
Yeah.
And come home with change.
Yeah.
You know what I
We
mean?
used to,
Like,
my parents would drop us off at the skating rink. It was a $5 to get in.
Yeah.
And then you could get a water cup. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
I think the skating rink opened at 6 and it would close at midnight. So my parents it was like $10 for me and my sister to go,
Yep.
drop us off, babysitter,
Yep.
done. They had 6 hours to themselves.
Oh
man.
my god!
I'm gonna say this off air.
Oh my god!
Maybe I should get a building. Go back to $1 at the end.
It's not a bad idea.
Right?
It's not a
Right?
bad idea.
Oh my!
We'll cut that out so no one
Yeah,
steals it.
make sure you cut that out, okay? I guarantee you.
I mean, hey, you
I
know.
guarantee
my
you it
God.
makes some money.
Oh man, but yeah, but again, it's like too. I have clients where they work so much and they're like, I can't provide.
Yeah.
They develop a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, fighting with their spouse, you know, and just like, and then they get dysregulated,
Yeah.
right? So then they're like, oh, now I'm yelling at my kids, or now like I saw my daughter, I never done that before. What's happening with me, So then
Right.
just kind of figure out, okay, well, what's changing in life? What's going on? You
Yeah.
know? So a lot of times, I mean, with therapy, it is about the behavioral change. Like, what do you want to change, right? So there are just kind of like what Becca had tattooed on her things, needs and wants.
Yep.
So I do that list with my client, right? So there's a researcher and psychologist, Maslow, who had Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So at the bottom of the pyramid, it's like, food, water, shelter, like the things that you need to survive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then with each pyramid like level up, then it's like security, job, home, right? Relationships. And then you get up to the top, which is self actualization, right? Not a lot of people get there, right?
Right.
But when people come in, I'm like, okay, where are you on this hierarchy of needs? What are your current needs right now, right? Because if you're telling me, oh man, I really want to be in a relationship, I'm like, well, you're homeless, right? So
yeah.
really the need is to like find stable housing,
Sure.
right? You're unemployed, maybe we need to get a job, So it's just like talking about needs first,
Yeah.
and then once you have that, then it's the next.
Now
need.
you've got
Okay,
a
what's next?
foundation to build
Exactly.
to the wants.
Exactly,
Right.
what the wants are, and wants are important too. Like we have to have
Sure.
wants,
Oh,
right?
you gotta have one.
We have to, because, and I told him like wants are desires, but that's something that's still attainable, even though you might be having depression or anxiety,
Yeah.
or trauma from something traumatic, right? But having that want is also really necessary.
It's right up there with purpose,
Exactly.
So
exactly.
you gotta have they're side by side. you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Well, and I'll say I feel blessed, really, because even with everything that's happened, I mean, things happen. But I remember, when the kids were young and Beck and I were young, and I was doing the 99-cent loaf of bread with the 99-cent bologna. And it was one piece of bologna in between two pieces of bread. You know what I mean? Because the foundation had to be built.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my wants, I guess.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
foundation is pretty solid.
Yeah.
I have a good job. I mean, my family's doing well
Yeah.
for most things. And now I can focus on stuff like
Yeah,
this.
stuff,
and,
yeah.
and the foundation is good and solid. I don't really have to worry about it, But I feel bad for a lot of people that don't have that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work and it takes time and everything. But it's a reassuring feeling, I feel like, once you kind of get past that. I remember being so stressed out every paycheck, man. Every
Yeah.
paycheck. And
Yeah.
it was like, what am I going to do? Like, there's not enough here. Like, how are we going to make this work?
Yeah.
And I don't know when it was, but at some point it was like, and, sometimes I'm still short, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll get through it.
You get through it. Yeah. No, seriously, you'll get through it.
I'll be all right.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
stress has gone away,
Yeah,
which is,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to like having more positive reinforcement for yourself, like
Yeah.
positive thinking, right? And a lot of times some of my clients are like, oh, don't talk about thinking positive, right? But it
Right.
really does help
Yeah.
because we're only alone with our own thoughts, right?
right.
So when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night, just think about how many times a negative thought kind of pops in your head,
Right.
Mhm. Now, for some people, it might pop in and they're like, yep, and they can just like dismiss it,
Push
right?
it aside,
It's okay. But for some people, a negative thought comes in like, oh, you're unattractive. Nobody likes you.
Just keeps banging away.
They internalize it. It just sits with them,
Yeah.
right? And then it impacts other things, their relationships, their friendships, their work, right? Or then they go off and try to spend money on plastic surgery or doing that, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
trying to fulfill that
Get that,
need.
that Brazilian butt lift.
Right, I mean, and again, like, and for people that do want to get cosmetic surgery, hey, go for it, right?
Sure.
If it makes you feel better.
If it
but
helps,
it's like,
right.
if it helps, but I always ask, like, well, what is your why do you need this, right? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know, I've known some people that have had it and they're like, oh, I just had like a little lipo and I feel better. Great. You know, and those people, like, they work out, they go to the gym, but they're just, you get older, you get like stubborn areas. You're just like, oh, this is, I'm doing like 100 push-ups, right? Yeah. but also too, I mean, there are, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the name of the show, but there's a show where it's just like people that have this obsession over plastic surgery. Yeah.
Becca used to watch
and
that.
And it really kind of breaks my heart.
Crazy stuff.
It really
man.
breaks my heart because that is a psychiatric disorder. And for any plastic surgeon that keeps doing that,
keeps doing it. Yeah.
I don't understand.
Allows it and puts them under the knife again.
Yeah,
That's crazy,
I don't understand.
Yeah, for sure.
But talk about needs and wants, talking about goals, and just finding out what the client really wants for themselves. You know.
Well, man, you're full of a lot of really good information. We're at an hour and 20 minutes
already.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm gonna start cutting this here is just because I got to edit this.
Yeah.
And no, this is awesome though. So actually, what I want to ask you, two things.
Yeah.
One, if we were to have people, you know, send us questions, would you be willing to come on and answer those questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
So we could do like a second episode Q&A with you?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And two, have you ever thought about doing your own podcast about this kind of stuff?
You know, I've never. I've thought about like
I know a guy that's got a studio.
Yeah, I know a guy that knows a guy that, like, you know. Honestly, like there have been times I've always thought about like writing a book, you know, kind of like mental health, you know, that kind of thing, and just but I don't know. It's now that you're doing this, I was like, I wonder if I could do that.
It's not that hard, dude. I mean, it's really hard.
Yeah.
No one should try. No, it's really not bad. And I learned how to do all this on YouTube, and I can show you how to do it. I mean, the editing is the biggest part, but you could also just do audio. You know, Ham had to have his camera. He's fancy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, this is fancy.
I'm a visual guy. You know,
I mean, we had Snack King Cole in here last week, and he just does a laptop and a microphone.
Oh wow.
You know, that's how he rolls. He came in here and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" Not like Ham said, he's trying to get a discount. But no, man. One, you have a great voice for radio.
Really?
You sound really good.
Oh, I don't like.
I'm over here going like, I'm gonna make an appointment. It's very soothing, and you know what you're talking about. You know, so I think it'd be really cool if some of the people that do subscribe, you know, kick us some questions and maybe
subscribe. Subscribe. You get your throat wet. Okay, subscribe.
Subscribe and hit that like button.
Yeah, the
right?
like button. You gotta do like this, where if it's on TV, you know.
I haven't learned how to do that. I think I got one in a corner somewhere. But you know what'll be funny is when Issa sees this, because I know he's on YouTube all the time. So he's gonna think you're famous.
Oh yeah. Well, I told him, I'm like, I'm gonna go see Uncle Joe. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm doing a podcast. He's like, oh, you are? I was like, yeah. He's like, can I see it? I'm like, yeah. When it's all done, you can see it. You know. He's like that. But if you ask him next time you see him, ask him, what do you do when you get older? I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, no.
Dude, it's
no. It feels like what
at
happens.
least it's not OnlyFans, bro.
I know, oh gosh. Oh, man. You know what? And if he wants to, I will be the manager. Like, it's gonna be a family affair. I'll be like, you know, I'm like, you need to get back to the gym and do some workout. Come on, let's go. You know, we need
a bigger trampoline.
Right.
No, this was awesome, man. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool to be able to do that. Have some people send some questions in, and maybe we make it a regular thing. You know, we could be like our own Dr. Oz kind of situation.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Dr. Phil was out there. Why can't we have you?
Dr. Laura. She did the radio one. You know. So yeah.
So on that note, we like to for you to tell everybody how to reach you, your website, and all other stuff that you want to tell them.
Yeah. So agency called Positive Awakenings. So it's positiveawakeningspllc.com.
Okay.
And then so I do have my office in Renton. So my number is 425-905-0608. Right. And my email address is positiveawakeningspllc@gmail.com.
All right. Hopefully you don't get haters hitting you up.
I know. Yeah, it's just like that's kind of.
And don't forget, subscribe.
No, and I'll put all that in the link too. So
okay,
like
perfect.
wherever you're listening to this, whether it's audio, visual, and all the platforms that we're on, the links will be in there. So
okay,
I would tag your socials, but you don't do it.
I don't do socials,
and I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
I really do, because it's not my favorite part. Yeah. Not talking smack. It's fun, but it's a lot of work.
I'm kind of a guy. dinosaur.
He enjoys it.
Yeah, he enjoys
it. Don't let him fool you, okay? My email keeps going off with new stuff.
You got it. You know what they do? They give you these goals that you have to hit, and I'm like, damn it! Now I got a new goal.
Email going off again.
I mean, but that means you're doing good.
That's true.
You're doing good
That's
work,
true.
right?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
People are liking it so far. So
Awesome.
Dekel, thanks for coming in, man.
All right,
I'm
thank you
gonna
for having
close
me.
this out.
Take us out, Joe.
All right, here we go.
Joe and Hampton, lights dim, it's game time. Interview sharp, cut through like a shank line. Stick lounge, stories unfold, real and raw. From hustlers to dreamers, breaking laws with a claw. Microphone warriors, capturing life's conflicts. Sitting across legends, tales flick like black pics. Drop bars, not mics, knowledge, it rains. From the streets to the beats in every vein. Stick lounge podcast, tales heavy with the weight. Real lives, gritty stories, never fake. Joe and Hampton, digging deep, no facade.